Don't ask me why I start so many books and never finish them. I won't be able to give you an answer. I need the woman as well, so it's not just a man in my ear. And like white people. Hi guys, if you're new here, hi. If you're not, welcome back. This is my second video on my YouTube channel, and I've already hit 30 subscribers, which is like insane to me. I know it's not a big number, but my goal for the end of the year was 50, so to already be at 30, kind of insane. It's kind of crazy. I actually did not expect this at all, so thank you guys so much. So today, for my first non-introduction-ish video on my channel, I'm going to be talking about books. More specifically, the 25 books that I need to read this year in order to feel like an accomplished book reader, because I haven't felt like one in a long time, and I want that feeling back. So it's my 25 in 2025, so the 25 books that I need to read in 2025. Just like goals, goal books, books I desire to read. But yeah, so I've split these up into different categories. So we're going to go through each category, and I'm going to show you the book I want to read, talk about why I want to read it, and then give maybe like a short description or something like that. I'm not sure, but we're going to talk about books today, so I'm happy. So let's get started. So the first group I'm going to start with is my fantasy group. I need to read fantasy this year. I am a big romance reader, but I've always wanted to be a fantasy girl. I think, more fantasy books than any other books, if not only slightly less than the amount of romance books I read. And I've only read a few fantasy series, so I definitely need to read more this year because I love fantasy. I love elves and world building and complex like world dynamics, so I will be reading some this year because I need to get rid of that physical TBR. So book number 1 out of 25 is Twilight. I need to read Twilight so bad, you guys don't even know. Twilight is one of the movie series, doesn't matter which movie, if it's Twilight, that one person can put it on, and by the end of the movie, everyone in my family somehow ends up in the living room. My entire family went to actually watch Breaking Dawn Part 2 in theaters when it came out, so Twilight is big for me, and I will be reading it this year. I am the type of person who needs to own the whole series before I read a physical book, so I will probably be ending up getting the entire series, but for now, I thrifted the first book, and I will be getting the rest, so Twilight, have to read it. Book number 2 out of 25 is Lore. If you look here, there's actually a bookmark in it already. I don't know if you can see that, but I started this book a long time ago, and I'm actually on page 156, and I just never read it. It was actually really good, like, world building, but I think there was so much world building at the time, and I wasn't, like, in a deep need for a fantasy book that I didn't know what was happening. I like the plot a lot, so I will be reading this year. Book number 3 out of 25 is For the Wolf. I am actually obsessed with this book. I haven't read it, but it's another book that I've already started. It's a Little Red Riding Hood retelling, and I don't remember exactly the dynamics, but I know for as far as I got, I was really intrigued, and I don't remember exactly why I didn't finish it. But I know that I want to read it again because for what I did read, I liked it. It also has these really cool, like, jagged edges that a lot of people don't like, but I love because I have sensory issues, and this is nice to play with. Strong will be read. Strong will be read. Book number 4 out of 25 is actually kind of a random one, and I don't really know how to explain this one, but it's The Zodiac Legacy. This is the first book in the series. I'm not sure if you can actually read these as standalones, but I only own the first one. It's about zodiac signs and powers, and I think it's just a really easy read. Once again, I have started this one. Guys, don't ask me why I start so many books and never finish them. I won't be able to give you an answer. But yeah, it's like a really easy read because it is made for kids. It is Disney. I might just start with this one if I don't need to buy the whole series first. So yeah, number 4 out of 25. The next 3 fantasy books are actually series, but I have read part of them, so it's kind of like a whole like reread, finish reading type situation, but I'm counting them each as one book for the sake of the list. And the first on that is the Six of Crows series. This is a duology that I already started and loved, but I never read Crooked Kingdom, which is why it's on my list. If you were to go back, I posted about these, but I never read the second one. I think at the time I was too scared because I know generally what happens after hearing about it for years. And I love this one so much that I didn't want to read this one, but it's Six of Crows. I have to know what happens. Therefore, I need to read this. So I need to reread and then finish Crooked Kingdom because I can't put it off for longer. I just can't. This series is actually the series that is making me make this video to kind of hold myself accountable because I desperately want to read this series because it's basically my favorite fantasy series, but I haven't even finished all of it, and so I don't know how I can claim it to be a favorite when I haven't read it. But this year I will be reading the Cruel Prince series. So the Folk of Air series is a series that I love, that I've been hearing about for years, and that I've read partially and haven't completed. And I think as a person who has rated the first book a 5 out of 5 stars, I should not be able to say that I haven't finished this series. I need to see my girl Jude be a baddie, and therefore I have to finish this. Like, if I don't finish this whole video is for nothing. This video is to hold me accountable to read this series. So I will be reading this year. So the last books in the fantasy section of my list are a lot. And I know this should count as more than one book, but because it's a series, I'm counting it as more so that I can have more books on my list and read more books, hopefully. But yeah, we'll be reading the Harry Potter series this year. I own all of the books, and I feel like as a reader, I should be able to say I read these. And that's basically the only reason I want to read them. I at least have to read like 3 of the books. Like, I have to read more than the first one. I own them all. Like, come on now. These books are number 7 out of 25 on my list, and the last of the fantasy kind of group sectioning I have going on here. And next is going to be the classical books that I want to read this year. So, book number 8 on my list, and the first book in my classical section of this video, is the classical book that I first think of when I think of classic books and like classical literature, and that is Crime and Punishment. I want to read this book so bad. I feel like it would make me such a nerd to read this book, and I love being called a nerd. Alaya, I know that you read. You have like a whole bunch of books everywhere. What do you read? I like to read a lot of classical books. I'm currently reading Crime and Punishment, and it's making me really think deeply about life and the society that we live in. AKA, I just want to be a nerd. It also has a really pretty cover. I bought this from Barnes & Noble like 2 years ago, and the fact that I haven't read it is a crime in itself. So I will be reading this year. Book number 9 is a classic book, yes, but it's a book specifically for me that I want to read that I don't think people first register as a classic book, and that's The Phantom of the Opera. It's another thing my family does where we just sit in a room all together. Somehow we all end up there watching the movie and singing the notes. It's a lot. But yeah, so I love the movie, and therefore I want to read the book. And look, it's so pretty. Shout out Owl Crate and Y'all West, because that's where I got this. I love Y'all West. Hopefully I go again this year. Book number 10 out of 25 is The Book Thief. This is probably the classic book that I want to read the most. I've started this book, and I didn't get that far into it, but I started it when I was in summer school, which is why I don't think I continued it, and why I need to read it now. If you're having a hard time reading this, I suggest listening to the audiobook, because I started it with the audiobook, and oh my gosh, it's literally lovely. I don't usually like male narrators when it comes to just being in the male POV. Like, I need to at least have dual POV if I'm listening to a male narrator. Like, I need the woman as well, so it's not just a man in my ear. But the way he narrated was like so profound, and it just sounded like he knew what he was talking about. Granted, I only got to like the first 10 pages, so I could completely not know what I'm talking about, but I liked the audiobook. It might be my next read, I'm not gonna lie to you. And last for this category is book number 11. This book is the physical embodiment of what it means to be dark academia, and I feel like as a person who looks the way I do, with all my blacks and dead roses and books on my wall and crystals and stuff and nerdiness, this book to me embodies that. That's The Secret History, if you didn't see that. I want people to look at me and know that I'm a smart little child. It just makes me feel like fall, and like the color brown, and like Yale, and like privilege, and like richness, and like white people, but that's not how I'm reading it, I swear. It's just literature. Like, it makes me think of literature. This is literature. This was also a book that my partner recommended to me, and it's their favorite book like ever, so once again, required to read it. I will be reading it this year for me and them. So, yeah. Okay, the next category is sad books. Mental health books that deal a lot with the mental health aspects of life, but also that just make people cry. I like that. I want that. I need that. I haven't read one in a while, and I do want to read a few this year, just in like a relatable kind of sense. And so there's only 2 books in this category, and the first book I actually don't have with me, but it's Girl in Pieces. Girl in Pieces is one of the first books that I wanted to read because it was one of the first books recommended to me, and I did actually buy it like 2 years ago. No clue where it went. I think I started it, and I don't even know if I read any of it before losing it somehow. I don't even remember exactly what it's about, but that is something that I want to read. So yeah, that's book number 12. Book number 13 is a hard one. A lot of people are going to tell me either not to read it or to be prepared to read it. I have picked it up, posted about starting it, and then put it right back down. And that's A Little Life. For this to be my 13th book on the list and the one out of 2 sad books I have, I obviously really want a sad book in my life. The only thing about this book is it's over 700 pages and the writing is small. And so, you know, sometimes you look at a book and it's like, oh, that's so intimidating, but then the writing's really big. It's not even that. This is just a lot of reading. If you watch my last video, I talk about book goals that I have for this year, and one of them is reading a book that's more than 450 pages, and this is over 700. So this would fulfill that goal while also helping me fulfill this goal to read this year. And so this isn't a must for me, but it is on the list because I really do want to read it. So yeah, book 13. Yay. We're just gonna get this one out of the way because it's the only book in the series. So book number 14 is Mystery, and it's One of Us is Lying. I picked this book specifically because I already own it, and I know that people like this book, or at least I've seen people like this book. And I'm not a big mystery person, but when I do read mystery, I usually love it. And I want to read at least one mystery this year, and so I thought since I already own this would be a good idea. So it's not a strong desire, but I was like, cool. It'll be cool. It'll be just like a chill little book to read, you know what I mean? Okay, my second to last category is kind of books that don't necessarily fit into any of the genres I talk about. Just kind of general books that I would just call books. I don't really know. The first book, number 15 on my list, I want to say, is Normal People. I've been recommended this book a few times. I'm not 100% sure what it's about, but when I searched up the genre to make this video, it didn't necessarily say like straight romance or straight mental health. It kind of looked like it had a whole bunch of different aspects, but I know that it deals with friendship and I think maybe found family. I'm not 100% sure what the plot is, but I've been recommended it and I've seen it a lot online. So I thought this will be the year I read it, maybe. Guys, I don't really have a lot of books that I like want to read. So sometimes I just throw books out there and they just stick. So this is one of those. Book number 16 is another one that's just for me specifically, and that's The Devil Wears Prada. I love that movie. If you know me, you know I love that movie. It's in my top 3 movies of all time. If I could have one life of any character, it would be Anne Hathaway in The Devil Wears Prada. I strictly just want to read this book because of my love for the movie. So, no other explanations needed, really. Book number 17 out of 25 is My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry. This is a book recommended to me by my partner. I actually read A Man Called Ove, and it was my last 5 out of 5 star of the year. And I loved that book so much. Frederick Bachman just has a really good way of telling people's lives, I guess, in a way that's so relatable but so simple. He doesn't really over-exaggerate people's lives and put emphasis on like feeling sad or feeling happy. It's just like living. And I really like that in literature. And so yeah, now I'm reading My Grandmother Asked Me to Tell You She's Sorry because it's Frederick Bachman and it's my partner and I need to read it. And that's enough reason for me. Book number 18 I actually changed before recording this video because I realized there was a different book that I wanted to put in its place. And that is the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, I believe is what it's called. This might go under fantasy, but I put it kind of under this because I know it deals with people's lives a lot. From my understanding, it's you go into this coffee shop and you're able to talk to a person from like a different timeline or from like the future or the past or something, and different time travel stuff. So it sounds intriguing, and I've been recommended it multiple times. And so this year I want to read one of the books. I'm probably going to end up reading the first one because I like to go in order in a series, even if you can read them as standalones. But who knows? Maybe I'll read more than one because I'll just like love it so much. That's number 18 out of 25. So we're over halfway there. The last book in this group is actually two books because I couldn't decide which one to pick. And that is between Turtles All the Way Down and Looking for Alaska. This year, I just want to read a John Green book. I can't explain to you why I want to read John Green. A lot of my books don't have actual reasons. It's just like what I feel like that I need to read. And a John Green book, I feel like I need to read one. Or maybe I'll read both, who knows. But for the sake of this list, they're going in one book, and that is book number 19. So yeah. The last 6 books are my romance books. I saved these for last because I'm a big romance person, and romance is the main genre I read. And so putting these on the list is just like saying I'm going to read a book. Like, it's not like a strong desire because I will probably read a lot of romance and probably more than these. And I have a lot more romances that I want to read besides these books that didn't make it to the list. So these are kind of just like, yeah, I want to read these. Yay. Okay, for these books, I'm kind of going to go from the ones I want to read the least, even though they're on this list, to the ones I want to read the most. Because there's one specific one out of all of these that I really want to read, and I want to leave that till the end. So, yeah. So number 20 out of 25 is The Davenports. The main reason I want to read this is because I have 3 different copies of it, and I feel like it's time that I read it. So this book came out in 2023. Before the book even came out, I received the ARC of this book because I'm on the Penguin Teen PR list. And then when it initially came out, or the final draft was kind of released, I don't remember which one, but I received the paperback of the book. And then I received this pretty hardcover of this book. So I own 3 different editions or types or just copies of this book. And I haven't read a single page, and I feel so bad because I'm on these PR lists and I'm not reading the books. And so in order to make myself feel better, I'm gonna read the book and then probably give away the other 2 copies. I'm keeping the ARC though because I like having ARCs because it makes me feel like I'm special. Number 21 is actually funny onto why it made it onto this list, and it's Permanent Record. The main reason it made it onto this list is because of the cover. So I bought this book like 2-3 years ago, specifically because I saw TikToks of it, and I liked the cover because that's what everyone was talking about. I don't even know if I knew what the plot was at the time. So if you look, the cover is really pretty, guy, girl, blah, blah, blah. But this is actually the dust jacket. And so when you remove the jacket, there's another cover underneath. So I bought this book specifically for that reason. And I want to read it because I don't remember what else drew me to this book. I know I probably heard other stuff about it, but if I did, I don't remember it, and I really want to read it now for that specific reason. My wants are really weird, if you didn't get that from watching this video. Okay, number 22 on the list is a book I really want to read, and I don't know why I haven't read it yet, but it's From Lukov with Love, I believe is what it's called. If you've watched basically any of my book content, especially when I talk about books that I love, Mariana Zapata, specifically The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, always comes up, and that's because that is my favorite romance book of all time. So because I love Mariana Zapata, I want to read more of her books, and From Lukov with Love was trending for a long time, like a year or 2 ago. At the time, I was in a book slump, and so reading a book with over 400 pages was just not in the cards for me, but it is now. Also, if this is anything like The Wall of Winnipeg and Me, the banter and the tension and the dynamics in this book are just going to be great, and I need it so bad. I need it so bad. I didn't even notice those were in frame. Oopsies. Okay, the last 3 books on this list are kind of the top books that I want to read this year, specifically because they are romance and because I'm a big romance person. So number 23 on this book is a book that I want to read really bad, and I'm pretty sure I don't even have to explain why I want to read this book, because if you know, you know, but it is The Notebook. If there's one thing that books do that movies don't often do, that is yearning. And somehow the movie got yearning so perfectly right that I need to see how the book translated. Oh my gosh, reading and watching it are so different, and if watching it is like that, oh no, baby, give me the book. I gotta see what words are used to get this feeling across because, ooh. Okay, books 24 and 25 are the last two books on my list, and they're complete opposites in the kind of romance division, but I just want to read them really bad. Number 24 is Battle Royale. It's just a cheesy, cliche romance book, and that's exactly why I want to read it so bad. One thing about me with romance books is I will read up a cliche every single time. And I know people don't like cliches because they're overdone, but they're overdone for a reason, and I will read them every time. They're overhyped. It's because I overhyped them, I'm not gonna lie. This might be the next book I have to read. What did I say? What did I say before was the next book? Book Thief? I don't know, but this might be next because I just love cliche romances. And therefore, she needs to be read as soon as possible. And the book to end my list, book number 25, the last book in my romance and the last book that I need to read this year is Archer's Voice. If you know anything about Archer's Voice, you know this is a really emotional book that does romance very well, but also has different themes of mental health and disability and just stuff that makes you realize that love still exists besides the cliche stuff. I know I love the cliche stuff, but love still exists other than just the overdone tropes. This is my partner's favorite romance book, and I want to read it for them because I know they love it so much, and I want to be able to say that I read one of the books that they hold very close to them. I actually started it last year, but I got stuck in school finals and couldn't finish it, so I know that this book is really good, and I want to finish it really bad. So that's why this is number 1 on my romance list of books that I want to read this year. So, yeah. I know this is a list of 25 books, but I have 5 bonus books that I want to read this year that are just rereads, so it's not me reading it for the first time or me hearing about it for the first time and just wanting to experience it. It's books that I want to experience again. Number 1 on this list is Circe by Madeline Miller. If you know anything about me, Circe is my favorite book of all time. It's actually my book wall. It's what inspired me to really get deeply into books. I love Madeline Miller's writing style so much. So yeah, I also just really love Greek mythology, and this book is my favorite book of all time, and so I need to experience it again because I haven't read it in a long time. Book number 2 is going to sound really weird, but it's a book I read in AP Literature in high school, and that is Brave New World. A lot of people don't like this book in any capacity. One, because you read it in English class, but also it's just one of those books that's like really weird when you read it. It's like a future world in which religion and singularity and individuality are all frowned upon. So everyone's just working for the system and the collective. It's just a really good book, and I want to read it out of the English school setting, so. Book number 3 doesn't need an explanation as to why I want to reread it, but it's The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. The beginning of the book, I couldn't really get through it, but I knew I wanted to read it, so I switched to an audiobook. And oh my gosh, the audiobook is so good. Hearing it how you want to hear it is always hard because in your head, while reading, you can imagine it how you want to, but I do think the audiobook does good for The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, but I do actually want to read it myself and tab my physical copy, so I want to do that this year because this book is really good and I want to experience it again. Book number 4 is a book that's kind of specifically for me right now. It's a really good book and a lot of people love it, but I want to reread it specifically because I'm currently relating to it a lot, and that is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. The book did have a lot of relatable moments for me at the time, but it's also very relatable right now, so I want to reread it again and experience it because it is a very good book to read. Last is a book that's very important to me specifically because it's a book that I've had since childhood, and that's The Girl Who Drank the Moon. I doubt a lot of people know this book because, like I said, it is a kid's book, but it's basically about a witch who's traveling with this baby and she feeds her moonlight instead of starlight, so the girl gains like kind of power-ish type things, and so she has to stay with the witch and grow up in the forest. It's very easy to read, but I think that the writing is really good and it just holds a special place in my heart. So I want to reread it this year just to kind of like feel like a kid again. So, yeah. Okay, guys, thank you so much for watching my 25 for 2025 video. Hopefully, I read these books this year. If not, then I'm a failure, I guess. It's whatever, it's fine. If you liked, subscribe. If not, I'm sorry you stayed this long. But I hope you have a good day. Mwah. Bye bye. Also, look, I made this, guys. Look, I made it. Look, I made it. I'm so cool. I'm so cool.